Found footage reveals the deadly encounter with sleep monsters in this horror film-esque entry to Doctor Who. Can the Doctor and Clara get out in one piece, or will they just fall asleep? Get ready for our review today in the Vortex.
Broadcast amplitude at maximum capacity. Transmitting through time and space in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Vortex.
Voices from the Vortex Reviews, Series 9, Episode 9, Sleep No More. Taylor?
Huh? What? Oh, I'm sorry.
We're doing a review?
Oh,
okay.
Sorry, I was asleep.
I
was sorry.
Buddy, put the teddy bear away.
Let me just rub this sleep out of my. Oh my God!
Oh no! God no! Ah.
What's happening? Hi everyone.
Hey guys, this is Matt from the Vortex,
And this is Taylor from the same.
from the same Vortex. Not a different Vortex.
No, it's the same one.
Good.
And yeah, so Sleep No More, a Mark Gatiss episode for Series 9.
Mm-hmm.
What do we think?
Well, it was good. I am going to be the first one to say this. I enjoyed the concept. I really did. And I like that it was one episode. I don't have to wait till next week. Waiting is for suckers.
Yep.
I like knowing now.
Waiting's for chumps.
Waiting for chumps.
Well, I will be the second one to say this. I agree with you. I agree. I really love the idea for this episode. Its execution for the most part. We'll get to that. But then, yeah, I mean, again, the thing that made me enjoy this episode the most was that, yeah, it was a single episode. I don't hate two-parters, but it doesn't. I really enjoy them when it's like the finale, so it's like more stuff. That's great. Or if it's like, even if it's like in the first episodes or two, like that's always fine too. Like, Impossible Astronaut, that kind of thing.
Right. So are you saying that in this season the two-parters have been too much?
Yes, I think I think there's been too many. And what was nice, what I loved about The Girl Who Died was it was almost its own story on its own.
Right.
And so this was definitely its own story on its own.
Yeah.
It was a nice, neat little package story, and I think, the beats it took and the way it was put together, just made it more enjoyable. I didn't feel like anything was stretched out or, that kind of stuff.
Well, and that's been the big hassle this season. The big trouble has been that every story feels like it's just been drawn out and strung out to get you 2 episodes. When you condense it down to 45 minutes, you generally get a pretty good story. And this episode, there could have been a lot more they could have done with it. We'll go into how the ending could have been a lot better. But overall, I mean, it was told in one story. It didn't need more. And I'm glad that it was a single episode. I'm glad that I don't have to. Next week we'll move on to something else. Let's go do something else. Let's Now we're gonna go see what Riggsy is up to. So I mean, I liked it. I like the format. I like the found footage thing.
I did too.
Some of the found footage movies that have come out have been absolutely terrible, and some of them are just horrible. Paranormal Activity and its consistent series is ridiculous. However, Cloverfield, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Blair Witch, dumb. But what was the one about the kids and the superhero? By Abrams?
Maybe.
Not Miracle. What was it called?
Unbreakable.
It was a one-word
No.
title.
Oh, I don't know.
All right. Well, that was reason. Anyway,
The
not
Office.
driving the point. Oh, yeah. No, it was yeah, right. No, it was really good. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, some of the found footage movies are incredible. Some of them are terrible. This was a found footage B-movie horror film.
Yeah.
And I think it works for Doctor Who because we've never seen it before on Doctor Who. You know, if every episode, if every season was like this, I get tired of it fast. But this was really good. This was a very well put together idea with some really good creepy moments in it.
Oh yeah, yeah. This episode was definitely creepy. There were a lot of times where I was just, I was never really scared because I'm a grown man. But
I'm not. I'm always scared.
I was hiding behind the sofa, but no, I was like, oh no, is he gonna get out of it? Is he gonna get out of it? And that I had that sort of anticipation watching this episode, and I really loved it.
Right.
And this episode was just fun. Like I feel like it was just because it was so short, and it was just like a fun little like, here's this, and I was like, great, I'll take it.
Yeah, well, and that's, when you look back at some of the best, single episodes where they try something new, when you look at Blink, when you look at Love and Monsters, whenever they try a different type of storytelling, usually with less Doctor and more other characters, or where you're not personally following the Doctor as you do with the narrative, I feel like they usually do very well.
Mm-hmm.
Doctor Who kind of allows for that breathing, for that, we can do an experimental type of show, because because it's a genre that allows you to do anything. Doctor Who exists in a world where any genre you want to do, you can do.
Right.
And that means you can experiment. Found footage is a great idea when it's one piece of a bigger puzzle.
Right.
The next episode could be done entirely animated, and it would be a completely different feel and a completely different idea, and yet it would work. They would feel like the same season, the same show.
Well,
so it definitely worked.
Well, it's like the series Community. They did so many different genres and types of things, but it was still the same show throughout, and it was so great. And I feel like, Doctor Who's exactly the same. One thing I really...
all our fans out there, Taylor and I are huge Community fans.
Yes.
We were very, very happy that we got 6 seasons.
Yes.
Now we just need a movie, and everything is good.
We need that movie, and Donald Glover needs to be in it, and then I'll be happy. So, one thing I really did love about the found footage thing was... And I felt super smart because I caught it in the middle. We started getting footage from Clara's perspective. You're right in the middle, and I was like, "Oh, there! It's from Claire's perspective. Something's happening. I loved it.
Right.
And then, and I loved that twist. And then the twist later when she's like, "We don't have helmet cams," and then they just kind of ignored that statement. And I was like, "But wait, no! Did you hear what she just said?" And then the doctor
He's busy thinking of other things.
Yeah. And the doctor finally was like, "Wait, what'd you say? 1.8 seconds ago." Which, or whatever that was, 8 point something seconds ago. Which I love that she was like, that she knew what he meant. Like,
right.
The girl, she was like 8.5 seconds ago. I said that,
It was technically the last thing she said, by the way. You could have just said, "What was that last thing you said?"
Right.
But no, it's the doctor. What did you say 8.5 minutes ago?
Yes.
3 speeches ago.
So I loved the twist that we were getting this. It was going to be this found footage thing, so we're all thinking, okay, so it has to be something like recorded on a camera, and then
Right.
and then the twist of it's the things in the people's eyes that are giving us the footage, and it started off with Clara, and I was like, I really loved that. I thought that was really cool, and just a really neat twist, something I didn't see coming, and then when it happened, I was intrigued, like, oh, what's going on? It was a mystery that the audience was privy to. They didn't know why it was happening, and then the people hadn't caught on yet. So I always like stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
This episode brought back some stuff that I was actually really excited about. One of the things I've really liked since Stephen Moffat took over is the idea that in the future, in space, humanity ties together military and religion almost completely. And that when we really first see it in Matt Smith's run was with the two-parter with the Angels, where all of the military are also clerics.
Right.
They fight for what do they call that? That was in his final episode.
The papal mainframe.
The papal mainframe, thank you. So the idea that religion and military are the same thing. And then we see this here again. Now, I don't know which military this is. I'm assuming this is Titan security. This is, Earth human military on Titan. Because that's where they were orbiting, the moon Titan. But they kept using the phrase, "May the gods smile upon you," whenever they contacted each other.
Right.
That's what they kept saying, And I kept thinking, like, the only reason they would do that is because, I mean, it's kind of like what we do today when when soldiers talk to each other, they have whatever nomenclature that they use. But it's cool to see that, Moffat's still tying those things together, that in the future, military and religious ideas are not separable. They are very intertwined.
Right.
And that brings a new level to the dedication of the soldiers. Because when we watch science fiction films, it's always easy to say, like, why would the soldiers do that? Why would they go in there? Aliens, perfect example. I love Aliens. That second Alien film is one of the best horror and space science fiction films in the history of film. Why did they go to that planet? There is no reason that once those aliens dropped in there, any of them should want to fight back. They should all have gone, what? Craziness! We've never seen aliens before, and they're kicking our ass. Let's go! Like, every human being on the ever would just run away. So, like, you don't buy that mercenaries are doing this for money. You don't buy that they're doing it to fight and save their comrades or to get revenge on, for their comrades. Like, you're just like, okay, I'm just in it for the ride because now it's an action film. But, like, here, there's a line you can draw and say on this side of it is everything they believe, and that's why they're going to do everything they do. So why were these people even on this station? Why would they go there? And once stuff started happening, why were they working together? Why didn't, some of them did. They freaked out and just kind of ran off in random directions. But for the most part, they tried to stay together and fight together. And that's not just because they were a military body. That's because they had faith. Because there was something else that was holding them and tying them to that. I like that Moffat does that. I think it's a really unique way to see the future.
Yeah, that was really great. The "May the gods smile upon you." When I heard that, I thought of and may the odds be ever in your favor. Instead of the Hunger Games. That's what went through my mind when I heard that.
That's a little too on the nose, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
There's a lot of really cool stuff that happened in this episode. Just a lot of little things that I thought was really neat. I feel like this season hasn't had enough of the cool, not Easter eggs, but just cool culture that Doctor Who embodies.
Right.
Like, what was it? They had those projected augmented reality HUDs.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But how cool is that? That's just like great. Like, they just wherever they go, they can put their computer right on a wall. Like, start playing with it.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I really enjoyed that.
That's just neat tech.
Well, there was a lot of neat tech in this episode. I loved the idea. Even though it turned out to be what causes the problem, but I loved the idea of the machine that gives you the effects of sleep without having to sleep. So you could go
right.
Like, that was just a neat idea. Something I never thought of. Instead of a sleep pod, it's like a pod where you only go in it for a bit and you've slept for a month, or something. It's great. And then the idea of the grunt, which was kind of a neat thing.
Yeah.
Like, it was if I don't know exactly what it was, if it was like a clone or some sort of genetically modified,
I think the
human.
doctor said it was a grown clone.
Yeah. Which, interestingly enough, and I didn't know this until after I'd watched it, but apparently the grunt was played by Bethany Black. It was the first transgender actor on Doctor Who. I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
which was really great. Yeah,
that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a really big deal.
You have a show which generally breaks some boundaries, but not a lot. It's definitely not a show where you have the most amount of female writers or black actors, or it doesn't really break boundaries. But it is the first transgender actor on Doctor Who, and one of the very rare few transgender actors or actresses in television.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You just don't get that.
Well, and I loved this. I really enjoyed all of these. There wasn't a side character in this that I was annoyed with. You know what I mean? Like I enjoyed every side character's story, and especially the story with the grunt, and then who he saved the person and then stayed behind, and it was this whole the grunt sort of had fallen in love with him and stuff, and I that was great. I really liked that. It was
kind of adorable.
Yeah, it was adorable, and it was really well written, I think.
So as great as this episode was, unfortunately, it ended. And upon ending, it made me rage quit for a moment.
I was very confused when it ended. I was like, now what happened just now? What?
So, okay.
And then I had to rewatch it and sort of figure it out. And I got it now, but I don't like it.
So because you and I haven't talked about this yet. So what I saw from it, let's make sure I got it right.
Okay.
What I saw was this entire video that was put together by the monster.
Yes.
And was done so in the hopes that that was the plan. It would be broadcasted all over Titan, where all the people who have been using the beds, everyone on Titan had been using these pods, and once it was broadcast, once a person saw it, it would activate whatever programming, whatever thing inside of them, and turn them into the monsters.
Yeah,
That's what I got from it.
Yeah,
if I'm wrong, let me know.
Well, and I don't know if you're wrong or not. What I got was that the static, every time that he said, there it is, that little static, which we saw throughout the whole episode. There's this little that would happen every so often. That was the virus implanting itself in you as you watched it. So
gotcha.
It had nothing to do. I don't know if it had anything to do if you've been in the pods before. I think I think the pods it was all made up. The fact that the monsters came from you being in the pods or whatever, is he said, that was all made up.
Theatrics.
Yeah. And so I think that the whole thing was just spread through the video. And then the goop you sort of start forming in your eye, because he said you have something in your eye, and before he dusted away and turned to sand or whatever. Yeah.
Now the reason he dusted away, I've had a couple of friends now who didn't understand why did they do that effect at the end. This is from what I understood, as it was getting pulled closer to the gravity of the planet, that was destroying whatever was keeping the sand together. That's why when it started, collapsing towards the planet earlier, all the monsters seemed to break apart or disappear.
Right.
So that's why he broke apart as it was flying towards the planet.
Yeah.
Now that raises the question: if they can't exist on a high dense gravity planet like Titan, how would it activate sand monsters to the people on Titan?
Well, and see, I think the whole thing was just sort of a fun little now that you, the Doctor Who viewer, have watched this episode, this virus is now in you, and it will start to form in you. I don't think it necessarily was the people on Titan. I think it was more like breaking the fourth wall a little bit and saying and Merry Christmas to you at home, that kind of a thing.
Well, and the episode was designed to be able to break the fourth wall so they could have that moment.
Right.
Because it was found footage. It was someone talking to the audience because they were talking to whoever's watching the video.
Yeah.
There's a really, really old movie from like the 50s or the 40s. No, it was the 50s. Had to have been. That Mystery Science Theater 3000 just ripped to shreds. But I love it. It's one of my favorite old movies. It's called I Accuse My Parents. The whole thing is this kid goes bad because his parents are out partying every night and they drink and they wake up late in the day and they don't seem to care at all about the kid, and his essay contest he wins, and so he turns to a life of crime and he ends up getting involved with criminals and he runs away from home, and upon coming back everybody's arrested and in the courtroom from the very beginning of the film, and then but again at the very end he says, well, don't you understand, Your Honor, that's why I accuse my parents. And then the judge giving this impassioned speech, this plea to everyone in the audience of the courtroom to love their children and treat them better, says, or else this could happen, and he looks right at the camera and he says, to you, and that's how they fade out. And I'm like, that's what this episode reminds me of, this super level of cheesy.
Yeah.
That just, it's not so bad it's good. That's where it took the turn. It was just bad.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
Yeah, I honestly was not a fan of the ending. It was very confusing. Like, it was not clear at first, to me at least. I don't know. I mean, I know I'm not alone on this. You know, I went online right after I watched
not
it,
at all.
and there were a lot of people who were like, I had no idea what just happened at the end. So one, it wasn't very clear. So I don't think the ending was very well written. Two, I wasn't a fan of that twist. I was okay with the fact that the doctor was still like, I have no idea what's going on at the end. I was even a fan of that. I thought that would have been fun and then, you know, he had blown up the ship and like, well, I still don't know what that was, you know, sort of like a Midnight sort of episode where he still didn't know what that thing was, but he had solved the problem, but he still didn't know what it was, and he took off and he was okay.
Right.
Or if he had just, you know, blown up the spaceship and all the monsters had died inside and everybody was okay, I would have been okay with that. I think that would have been a great solid episode. But to already have this, there were already so many twists and turns in this episode, to be like, here's one more twist, and it like totally negates everything you just watched. Like, I wasn't a fan of that.
There's too many twists.
What a twist.
With a twist. So yeah, I mean,
yeah.
But this is Gatiss. Gatiss
yes.
writes very specific kinds of episodes. So I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna list off his episodes. You tell me if I'm right or wrong. I think when Mark Gatiss writes an episode, he writes it with the idea that the theme is, who can you trust? Okay, so somehow either the people around you, the people around the doctor, the people even at home, something about the scenario, you can't trust anyone. There's this heightened sense of anxiety and paranoia that comes along with the episode.
Uh-huh.
He wrote The Unquiet Dead from season 1, where you didn't know if you could trust the ghosts. You know, who can you trust? Can you trust these impassionate monsters who are pleading to the doctor, please, please, please save us, help us find a home? You know, who can you trust? He wrote The Idiot's Lantern, where the TV was stealing people's faces, and you know, there was sort of that, well, he's investigating with the detective. You know, who can you trust? Who is working for this monster that's stealing faces, and what's happening with the people who don't have faces anymore? There was sort of a sense of, he even says it, this is the Queen, you know, England, this isn't Stalin's Russia, you know, who can you trust?
Right.
He did Victory of the Daleks, where the Daleks pretended to be good guys to work on the side of the, who can you trust? Can you trust the Daleks? They claim to be good. Obviously they're not.
Right.
But he plays on that theme. He did Night Terrors. Who was causing the night terrors, right? Who could you trust? Could you trust the father? Was he the one doing it? Could you trust the boy? Once they were sucked in, once they got sucked inside, what inside was real and what wasn't? Cold War, trapped in a submarine under the ocean. Who could you trust on the submarine?
Right.
You know, there was people were playing against each other. Some trying to cut deals with Bill Skaldak.
Well, and even Bill Skaldeck, it was almost they were trying to talk to him and
Right.
trying to get him to be on their side, and he right at the end they had to trust that he would call off the troops and everything. So
Right.
yeah,
Crimson Horror. Who could you trust? Who's turning people into this stuff? It's all these creepy themes of who is lying, who's real, who's not. The Robot of Sherwood.
yeah, that's
Can you trust Robin Hood and his merry men?
And what was real? It was this whole thing. Like the doctor was like,
Right.
none of this is real. There's no way. And then it turned out to
Right. So I honestly think Mark Gatiss loves the idea that there's a sense of paranoia about life.
right.
That nobody
Even
is exactly what they seem.
even on Sherlock, he plays Mycroft, and it's like
Yeah.
in the first episode when you meet Mycroft, you're like, can we trust Mycroft? He seemed very shady, and you're like, oh,
Right.
he's just Sherlock's brother. Like you just find that out.
No.
Oh yeah.
They've been playing these games since they were kids.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I like this episode. I do. I like
Yeah.
that it's spooky and it breaks the fourth wall a little bit. I like that it you don't really know what's happening.
Mhm.
You don't know what the twists are. I hate the ending. But if that's the only thing I hate about it,
Yeah.
then it was a fairly decent episode.
Yeah, and Mark Gatiss for me, I've said this before on the podcast, but Mark Gatiss for me is kind of hit and miss. Like I like most of his stuff, but then
Right.
when it's bad, I'm like, it's usually pretty bad for me. We talked about last year, Robot of Sherwood, not great.
Right.
And I know you liked it, but I was not a huge fan of Crimson Horror. It's growing on me, but as I've rewatched it before, it's a little more fun. But I at first I was not a big fan of it. Cold War, I loved Cold War, was great. Night Terrors, I feel like is one of the weakest episodes of Doctor Who, especially in season 6. It's one of the weakest ones.
Mm-hmm.
Victory of the Daleks is okay, it's good. Idiot's Lantern it's all right, and Unquiet Dead's great. So yeah, it's hit and miss for me. This episode for me though was a hit. I enjoyed it, and yeah, I agree. I thought the ending was dumb, but honestly, you could just cut that part off and it'd be a great episode. You know what I mean? Like it would just
Right.
The doctor set the thing on a course to crash into the planet, and he took off going, I don't know what this was. The end. Like it could have been just that, and I would have loved it. So it did. I don't feel like the end ruined the whole episode for me. So yeah, I agree on that.
Right, and because you get to the end and you do ask yourself the question, was this signal transmitted? Was anyone actually watching it? Did anyone on Titan end up getting, infected? We don't know. So this sort of, again, that paranoia. This could have just been the monster's last laugh. Haha, even if I die, I might survive. You don't know.
Yeah.
So the ending wasn't terrible. It just
it wasn't.
suddenly realizing that it wasn't as good as the episode.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if you've seen this already, but there's already articles out now talking about how Mark Gatiss he's already planned a sequel to this story.
Really?
To bring these monsters back, and I don't know if it's true, but I thought that was an interesting thing to think like, oh well, maybe he's already got a plan for a part 2 for this in some.
It certainly opens
later
itself up
series.
for a part 2.
Oh, it definitely does. It leaves it open, and I thought the monsters were great. I thought it was a little silly that they came from iGoop, but which in reality they maybe they do. I still don't know. The ending is still confused me on like what was actually staged and what was like what are the monsters
Right.
exactly. But I thought the monsters were great, and it was a good idea that it was caused by this problem, and so by this cheating of sleep. So yeah, no, I think
and when he
they could
talks
definitely
about it
bring it
being
back.
hold on now, but when he talks about it being theatrics, he wasn't talking about the whole story. He wasn't saying all of it was fake. It wasn't like they were monsters from somewhere else and they were just making this stuff up.
Right.
What he was talking when he was talking, the doctor says, I don't, but I don't understand. He says, then why did you force the ship to start crashing? and make it look like you were eaten. He says, oh, well, there had to be a sense of theatrics.
Mm-hmm.
So he's talking about tricking them to kind of maneuver them around. His end goal was never to stop them from getting off the ship. It was never to kill them. His end goal was simply to get people there so he could force this message to be made. He had to make this message one way or another. And by getting other people there, he could make it.
Well, and it had to be intriguing enough so that we would watch it for what he said, we had to watch it for so long for it to take effect. So
yeah,
he had to make it intriguing so that we would watch it for the whole thing and then get to the end.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
I don't think it was made up. I don't think the Sandmons. I think everything they said about him is true. I think you have to have been in the pod for you to become one. I think the eye goop they comes from that. I think that it's everything that happened is real, right? It's all part of who these monsters are. The theatrics were moving these characters back and forth, attacking them in this room, and then letting them get away in that room, and
right.
It was all because they had to play out the story so you would be intrigued enough to keep watching.
Yeah. Which is it's a neat idea, but I think the ending was just poorly executed.
Yeah. It could have helped a little more exposition. Sure. This is the problem with Moffat's Doctor Who. He never likes exposition. One guy, one character. You had him with Rory. You could easily have had him with Danny Pink. One character who just goes, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. And then the Doctor says, of course it does. Here's why.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Well, it's not hard. I mean,
no, it's not. No, I agree.
That's literally how television has been written since television started. I don't get why Moffat fails at this. Whatever. No, I'm not gonna rant. I'm not gonna rant this episode about Moffat's. He had nothing to do with this episode. I'm not gonna rant about it.
This is why we can't have nice things, Matthew.
This is why we can't have nice things.
So there were some great quotes in this.
Yes, there were.
There was some really funny stuff. Especially near the beginning when it was less scary. They weren't really into the whole scariness of it yet, and they were just sort of talking.
Right.
I really loved the whole conversation with him and Clara where she was like, it's a space restaurant. And he's like, no, it's just a restaurant. Why do you people put space in front of everything? And then later, though, the best part was when the lady goes, we were attacked by space pirates. And Clara's like, space pirates, see? Not just pirates. Space pirates. And
that look he gives her when she says that too.
So good. And then I've been involved in musical theater, for a lot of my life. And when she said, "Consider yourself," and the Doctor said, "A part of the furniture," that lost it. That is from Oliver the Musical. If anyone was unaware of what that was from, and it is.
And I think my favorite quote, though,
so great
from the whole thing, was when he's asked, what happened? And his response is, from the beginning of time, that's a long story.
That's such a great, Doctor Who quote. That's such a great,
yeah.
He's
not necessarily lying.
No. I see the fourth Doctor saying that, you know what I mean? It's one of those...
Yeah.
It reminds me of the line where the fourth Doctor says something like, "Oh, that takes me back." Or is it forward?
Right.
Sort of this time pun. I like that. That's what that reminds me of. And so that's a really good line too. Well, so final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Well, after hearing about this episode for 5 or 6 months, I was really nervous that it wouldn't live up to the hype. I wasn't necessarily wrong. This, like most of the episodes he's done previously, was an excellent Gatiss entry into Doctor Who. I mean that. Sure, the ending was ridiculous, and some of it felt a little bit too much like a cheesy B-movie horror film. Yeah, but it was a refreshing change of pace in a season which could have really benefited from more single-story episodes. I wonder if this episode could have been received better by fans if it had been moved up in the season order. Maybe put it between Before the Flood and The Girl Who Died.
Oh, yeah.
The pacing of the season has been terrible. And this episode really shines because of that. The only real issue with the episode is the lack of that cohesive conclusion, and the plot thread that's left open that all the people on Titan are turned into monsters. Who knows? The Doctor fails to save the day. Will we ever get to see that resolution? Overall, it's a mediocre episode benefiting from a season which has struggled to present its stories, so I think it did fairly well.
Yeah, I found this episode to be very enjoyable to watch. It was one of the most creepy and suspenseful episodes in Doctor Who I've seen in a while. I very much enjoyed the monsters. I thought they were great. The found footage feel of the episode and the twists of, it's from Clara's perspective now and all that. I loved that. But yeah, I agree. The ending of the episode was very weak and initially for me, again, very confusing. I was pretty much lost right at the end until I kind of got to watch the end again and figure out what happened.
Yeah.
I even enjoyed the idea of the Doctor not figuring it out. But yeah, not a fan of that complicated twist. For the most part, Gatiss' episodes are hit and miss for me. And ignoring the end of this episode was a hit for me. I thought it was great. And I think a lot of that, because it was a single parter, it was more of a nice, tight, well put together story that just, and it was fun. So I liked it.
Yeah.
Calculating. Voices from the Vortex gives Sleep No More. 6 out of 10.
So it's time for Oh My God, That Promo.
Yeah, so I guess we should play the music.
Oh my God, that promo. Exactly. Just like that.
Yeah. Oh my God, those promos.
Oh my God, that promo.
No, those promos. There was more.
Oh, yeah.
There was more than one. Initially, there was only the one that I had seen on, right after the episode when I had watched it. And then I went online and I kept seeing all these gift sets from, other stuff. And I was like, no, wait a minute. What's happening here? And so then I looked, there was another one. Did you get a chance to watch the other one?
I did not.
Oh.
So we will have to split up our Oh My God, That promo between the two.
Okay, all right.
So talking about the first one.
Sure.
The things that we are waiting for that are exciting to see. Riggsy's back. Woo!
Yeah.
Love me some Riggsy.
Yeah.
Diagon Alley is here. Woo! Harry Potter.
I'm assuming that's where they're going. It has to be.
The Attack Raven. Woo! So it's a lot of craziness is going on. Again, Moffat doesn't make good promos. But this one looks really exciting.
Yeah, this one.
I'm excited to see what they can do when they push that sort of, again, creepiness. We are getting close to the end of the season. Whatever's going to happen to Clara is coming.
Right.
And it might happen in this episode. Considering the fact that the episode after it, this one coming up is episode 10. Considering that episode 11 is supposed to be just Capaldi, nobody else.
Right.
And then episode 12 being the final episode. I'm feeling very confident that whatever's going to happen to Clara will happen by the end of this next episode.
Yes. And I feel, and I'll talk about the other promo in a minute, but I feel, yes, I agree with you that it's either going to happen to her in this episode, so this will be her last episode, or something will happen to her in this episode, and then she'll be gone for the next one, and then maybe the finale we'll get to see her one last time, and it'll be the final goodbye. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It could. Yeah. I think it maybe could be like that. So, all right. So the other promo, it was more Diagon Alley stuff, and it was great. And
Hagrid and everything.
The Attack Raven, Riggsy was there. It was all that good stuff. But also a shielder, or me, or whatever you want to call her, was there also. So Maisie Williams, again.
Woo!
Looking all mysterious in some crazy looking outfit, really like a, not a time period looking outfit, kind of a weird, cheesy sci-fi looking kind of outfit, like her hair, like some kind of alien, how some alien would dress or something.
Okay.
And then, so she's there. I don't remember what she says, but it was all ominous. And then we have this scene right at the end of the trailer. It's the Doctor and Clara, and they're both standing there, and she's got her hand on his face, and she says, "Goodbye, Doctor." And then she's walking away from him. We don't know where she's going. It's from our perspective, we're looking at her face, and she's looking at wherever she's walking to, and she's repeating to herself, "Let me be brave, let me be brave," as she walks towards something. So
yeah,
very, very cool, and very like heart-wrenching too. Like, no, what's awesome. Happening? I don't want to. Yeah. And it's so soon. It's tomorrow. It's tomorrow.
It is. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
It is, isn't it? Dude, this is. I'm glad we got to the end of the season now. I'm glad we got to the end of this episode. I'm excited because we have a couple of one-off episodes. Just feels better.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to see sort of the beginning of the end happening. I'm ready to see an adventure that sort of starts tying up the episodes.
Right.
And
and I love when the show changes. That's one of the great things about the show is when it changes, and so we're losing Clara, and it's very sad, but we get some great things out of this. It'll be great dramatic television. It will be, I'm sure if I know Moffat, there will be some really cool wrap-up sort of reference to her beginnings as the companion, that sort of thing, like he did with Amy, and then eventually we'll get a new companion. We'll get to see, there'll be all sorts of, who's the new person going to be, and then, oh, is it this person? And then they'll announce it, and it'll be great, and lots of speculation. That'll be good. And then finally, we get River Song for the Christmas special, and it's going to be fantastic.
It is going to be fantastic. Guys, thanks for joining us again.
Yes.
We'll see you here next week when we review the new episode. What's it called?
Face the Raven.
Face the Raven.
Taste
episode
the rainbow.
10. Taste the Raven. What?
No. That would be eating.
Thank you.
I'd rather eat crow. Thank you.
Oh.
All right, everybody.
Those jokes are foul.
Yikes.
Have a good night, guys.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This has been another Voices from the Vortex review, Series 9, starring Matthew Whitecamp as Matt, the Time Lord, Taylor Davidson as Taylor, the Time Lord, and Danielle Davidson as the sexy voice of the TARDIS. All views expressed are the opinions of the two dudes from Gallifrey, and as such, should be taken extremely seriously. Follow Voices from the Vortex on all social media, including Facebook, Tumblr, and Twitter. If you have any questions regarding the podcast, please email us at voicesfromthevortex@gmail.com. Doctor Who and all related materials is copyright BBC. No infringement of copyright is intended. All originally written material is fan fiction of a satirical nature. Please, Mr. Moffat, don't sue. See you next time in the Vortex!
Temporal flight engaged. Returning to the vortex. End of transmission.